Ever wonder how a coffee commercial kickstarted a TV icon's career? Let's dive into the life of Anthony Stewart Head.
Hey there, I'm Leah, feeling super excited today.
And I'm Garrett, ready to explore this fascinating topic.
Welcome to Laid Back Learning with Leah and Garrett.
Today, we're exploring the multifaceted career of Anthony Stewart Head, an English actor and singer known for television, film, theater, and a whole lot of voice work.
I remember watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a teenager and being totally captivated by Rupert Giles. One Halloween, I dressed up as a Slayer, but my glasses were way more Giles than Buffy. Honestly, it made me appreciate how Anthony Stewart Head brought this blend of intellect and mystery to the librarian mentor. It felt grounded and kind, and then he could switch to fierce protector in a heartbeat. That duality stuck with me and made research and books feel powerful, not nerdy. That's close to the heart of it for me, you know?
Let's set the scene. Anthony Stewart Head was basically the Swiss Army knife of entertainment. He moved between West End musicals, which are London's big commercial theaters, TV dramas and comedies, films, audio dramas, which are stories designed just for listening, and narration. He had this distinctive baritone voice, meaning a rich, low male tone that gave him an edge in radio and advertising. Over nearly 5 decades, he kept showing up in new places and nailing it.
Totally. Think of him as a performer who could be the anchor in one project and the scene stealer in another. He was born in Camden Town, London, and you can hear that polished British stage training in how he speaks. If you've ever listened to BBC Radio 4, you might know him from Cabin Pressure, a sitcom about a tiny airline, and Bleak Expectations, a wild Dickens parody. Audio drama, by the way, is just a story told through voices and sound design, no pictures, so that voice becomes the whole performance. He made that feel effortless.
Early life first. He grew up in a deeply creative family. His mother, Helen Shingler, was an actress, and his father, Seafield Head, was a documentary filmmaker who founded Verity Films. That means film sets and rehearsal rooms weren't foreign. His older brother, Murray Head, is also an actor and singer. Fun twist, both brothers ended up playing the same role, Freddie Trumper, in the musical Chess at London's Prince Edward Theatre. Murray did it in 1986. Anthony took it on in the final 1989 cast. That sibling overlap at the same theater is pretty wild, right?
And he trained seriously. He went to LAMDA, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, which is one of the big classical acting schools. That's where you get voice discipline, movement, the kind of technique that carries you on stage, and mic. Early on in 1978, he performed in the musical Godspell with Sue Pollard, who's a British actress and comedian known for the sitcom Hi to Hi. That same year, he made his TV debut in Enemy at the Door, playing a resistance member named Clive Martell in a wartime drama set on the occupied Channel Islands.
He also dabbled in pop and studio work. In 1981, he popped up on Not the 9 O'Clock News, a hit British sketch show, as one of the Bobs in the sketch made by Roberts. In the early 1980s, he provided backing vocals for the band Red Box, and in 1983, he featured on the two-way album Face in the Window. That little cameo showed he could flip into sharp comedy when needed.
On the musical front, of course, the Rocky Horror Show became a long-running thread for him. He played Frank N. Furter in the West End revival in 1990 and 1991 at the Piccadilly Theatre, came back in summer 1995 at the Duke of York's Theatre, performed it in Las Vegas in October 2000, and joined a 2006 London tribute. He even released Sweet Transvestite as a single in 1991. That's a role that demands big vocals and a wink to camp theatricality, which just means exaggerated style played with self-aware humor.
Middle chapter. The big UK breakthrough was the Nescafe Gold Blend ads from 1987 to 1993. He starred opposite Sharon Morgan, an English actress, in a serialized campaign about two neighbors flirting over coffee. In North America, it ran as Taster's Choice from 1990 to 1997. Those ads were genuinely a phenomenon. They made him a familiar face in millions of homes, which sounds simple, but it opened doors.
Why did a commercial translate into major roles, though? I mean, I get the visibility, but why does that tip someone into, say, a cult TV classic?
Totally fair question. Casting directors look for three things they can bank on: audience recognition, proof you can carry a tone, and reliability. Those mini dramas showed he could deliver charm and timing in bite-sized scenes week after week. That momentum helped when he was initially cast as Adam Klaus in the pilot episode of Jonathan Creek, a mystery series. A pilot is the test episode used to sell a show. He left after the pilot because he landed Rupert Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 1997, and that was like a life changer.
Giles is the Watcher, the mentor, and the school librarian guiding Buffy. The show, created by Joss Whedon, who's an American writer and showrunner, ran from 1997 to 2003. Head left the regular cast during season 6 in 2001, then returned for guest arcs through the finale in 2003. During those years, he lived in the United States while his family remained in the UK, which is a lot of transatlantic balancing. He also sang on the beloved musical episode Once More with Feeling, which put his theater training front and center.
Around the same time, he was orbiting Doctor Who in all sorts of ways. He actually auditioned in 1996 to be the Eighth Doctor, a role that went to Paul McGann, an English actor known for Withnail and I. In 2001, Head played a Time Lord named Valentine in the Doctor Who webcast Death Comes to Time, which was an online audio-visual release before streaming was huge. In 2006, he guest starred on TV as Mr. Finch in School Reunion, narrated the BBC Radio 2 documentary Project WHO, and later narrated Doctor Who Confidential, a behind-the-scenes series. He also recorded an abridged audiobook of The Nightmare of Black Island by writer Mike Tucker, and voiced the villain Baltazar in the animated special The Infinite Quest. Oh, and he voiced Ponsonby, the MI6 chief, in the 2006 video game Destroy All Humans. 2. That's serious range. That patch of projects really set him up for a pretty busy 2006.
2006 was packed for him. He appeared in the drama Hotel Babylon, filmed the U.S. pilot Him and Us, loosely based on the life of musician Elton John, played Captain Hook at the children's party at the palace for Queen Elizabeth II's 80th birthday, and kept intertwining TV, stage, and voice work. You can see the pattern here. When one medium quieted down, another lane opened up for him, and he just pivoted smoothly.
Endgame highlights now. From 2008 to 2012, he was King Uther Pendragon in the BBC fantasy series Merlin, playing the formidable father to Prince Arthur. On radio, he was a fixture in Bleak Expectations from 2007 to 2012, taking on both the arch-villain Mr. Gently Benevolent and the journalist Jeremy Sorquill. And starting in 2011, he became Hercules Shipwright in the radio sitcom Cabin Pressure. Opposite a cast that included Stephanie Cole, a veteran British actress, he came back for the 2014 finale to help land the series.
He also crossed into films like The Iron Lady and Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance in 2011, then Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters in 2013. For Despite the Falling Snow, he earned Best Supporting Actor at the 2016 Prague Independent Film Festival. On the music side, he released music for Elevators in 2002 with composer George Serra, the single Cry in 2012 written by Marina Florence, and the solo album Staring at the Sun in 2014. There's a great connective tissue here to Repo, the Genetic Opera, a rock opera film. Director Darren Lynn Bousman, known for the Saw franchise, cast him after seeing his Buffy musical performance. That's such a direct line from one standout moment to another opportunity.
In late career, he kept adding notches. He joined The Archers, which is a long-running BBC radio soap opera, in 2018 as Robin Fairbrother. He did 4 episodes of the sharp parenting comedy Motherland in 2019. In 2020, he turned up as Rupert Mannion, the scheming former owner of AFC Richmond, in Ted Lasso, led by Jason Sudeikis, an American actor and writer, with a key turn opposite Hannah Waddingham, an English actress and singer. The ensemble got a SAG Award nomination in 2024. He also appeared in Bridgerton Season 2 in 2022 and the film Upgraded in 2024.
And 2 notes that round out the arc. In 2023, he reprised Giles in the Audible audio series Slayers, a Buffyverse story, alongside co-stars like James Marsters and Charisma Carpenter, both actors from the original TV run. Then in 2026, he died from complications of pneumonia at age 72, with tributes pouring in from colleagues. Brett Goldstein, a writer and actor on Ted Lasso, said Head played the worst person while being the best person. The New York Times called him a mainstay of influential television shows. That's a legacy statement if I've ever heard one.
What ties it together for me is that voice and that flexibility. He could guide a fantasy court as Uther, slide into a modern villain in Ted Lasso, or narrate a documentary with authority. Plus, the music kept showing up, from stage to records to that Buffy episode. He even had Saturn Award recognition in 2001 for Best Supporting Actor on TV. Across generations, people met him in totally different contexts and still recognized the same craft.
Okay, let's take on a tiny controversy. The dates of his role as the Prime Minister in Little Britain vary. Little Britain is a mid-2000s British sketch comedy by Matt Lucas and David Walliams. Some sources list his Prime Minister appearances as 2003 to 2006. Others say 2003 to 2005. I lean toward focusing on the core broadcast years that formed the recurring presence, which would put it at 2003 to 2005. Specials and cameo returns can muddy the water a bit.
I get that, but I'd argue for a broader interpretation. If he popped back in a 2006 special or related broadcast, then saying 2003 to 2006 captures the public memory, which isn't neatly segmented by series versus specials. It's kind of like counting playoff games when you talk about an athlete's season. The presence is still part of the arc people remember.
Why does that distinction matter, practically speaking?
For one, documentation. Archivists and fans build timelines, and the way we frame a role affects searches, credits, and even how streaming platforms label episodes. If the aim is to reflect every on-screen appearance, the broader range communicates completeness. It says, hey, he was part of this world through 2006 in some capacity.
And the counterpoint is clarity. If we stick to the core series broadcast, you avoid inflating a credit by counting a one-off special. It helps researchers compare across shows consistently. I like noting both 2003 to 2005 as the main run, with appearances extending into 2006. That captures reality without over or underselling it.
That's a solid point. It also mirrors a bigger issue in TV history. How do we track guest spots, webisodes, or audio spin-offs alongside core seasons? With someone like Head, who moved across formats so fluidly, it's worth being explicit about what each date range means.
Speaking of formats, his pop culture footprint is massive. Buffy cemented the mentor archetype for a generation. Merlin gave him regal gravitas for younger viewers. Ted Lasso introduced him to another wave as a sharply drawn antagonist. And those Nescafe Gold Blend ads made him a household face before many of those roles existed. That's cross-generational appeal baked in.
Yeah, and the ad campaign proves how storytelling in any form can launch a path. Small episodes, big consequence. From there, he leveraged that voice into Cabin Pressure and Bleak Expectations and kept the pipeline open with Doctor Who narrations and animation. Swiss Army knife status? Confirmed.
All right, let's do a quick what if. What if Anthony Stewart Head had been cast as the Eighth Doctor in 1996? That TV film tried to revive Doctor Who. If he'd led that, his schedule and profile might have shifted toward anchoring the franchise's late 90s presence. Paul McGann, who actually took the role, became iconic through audios later, but Head in that slot might have tied him more tightly to the Who universe and its conventions. Would he still have done Buffy in 1997? I'm not so sure.
Right. Timing is everything. If he were the Doctor, he might have been less available or perceived differently when Buffy was casting Giles. That could mean a different mentor energy on Buffy, which is a big ripple. Also, if Head headlined Who in 1996 and it somehow gained traction, his late 2000s projects might look different. Maybe Merlin doesn't happen, or at least not with him as Uther. And here's a curveball. Without his standout singing in Buffy's musical episode inspiring Darren Lynn Bousman, maybe Repo, the genetic opera doesn't slot him in the same way.
Also, that long-rumored Giles spin-off, Ripper, which Joss Whedon once discussed in 2007 at San Diego Comic-Con, might never even be floated if Giles were played by someone else, or if Head's career were centered elsewhere. On the flip side, if the 1996 Doctor had taken off with him, his voice would be even more fused to a single franchise identity. That could elevate his sci-fi legend status, but might narrow the public's sense of his range, which would be a trade-off given how much he thrived on variety.
And late career. Would Ted Lasso still see him as Rupert Mannion if he were forever the Doctor to a global audience? Maybe, but casting against a beloved Doctor persona as a ruthless owner is a different bet. I could see it, but the tonal whiplash would be bigger. In a way, the actual path he took gave him the freedom to be Giles, then a king, then a villain, then a trusted narrator. That's pretty cool, right?
Thanks for joining us today.
Stay curious and keep exploring.